I want a trial separation. Wife wants a trial separation. Husband adjusts as best he can. It was obvious as soon as I stepped through the doorway. Something had agitated Darla. She stood in the living room clasping her hands and shifting her weight from foot to foot. I'd seen her do this often enough in our 24 years of marriage to recognize the problem right away. Darla gets home from her dental work a half hour earlier than I do. Usually she uses that time to start making dinner and change her clothes. Today, however, she was wearing her work clothes and there were no pleasant smells coming from the kitchen. When Darla changes her routine, something's wrong. "Dick, we need to talk," she began nervously. "Of course, dear," I replied quietly, dropping into the chair. The ball is now on her side. "What's wrong?" "I don't have an easy way to tell you this, Dick, so I'll just blab. I want a separation and possibly a divorce," she stated boldly. "I think a trial separation would be best, but with the understanding that it could lead to divorce in the future." "All right, dear," I replied calmly. "I will move out immediately." As I got up and headed toward our bedroom, I saw Darla's jaw almost hit the floor. I guess she had expected more discussion and questions on my part. While we were married, I never failed to enjoy reacting to a situation differently than Darla expected. To this day, she never ceases to be amazed. She was the predictable one, not me. If my immediate acceptance of her desire for separation took her by surprise, my return to the living room less than a minute later with 2 large and fully packed suitcases made her stagger. I set the luggage by the door, pulled a piece of paper out of my pocket, and held it out to Darla. "Here's my new address and phone number. You can still call me on my cell phone. I only have one separation requirement. If you make love to anyone other than me, we proceed immediately to divorce. If you are just trying to find yourself, as they say, we can get back together when you do. I don't agree with just being used a few times with no consequences or punishment, and then letting you decide you want me back," I warned. "One punch and you're out." Before Darla could speak, I pulled out my cell phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Becky? It's Dick. I was wondering if you'd like to meet me Friday night for dinner," I asked. "You know the answer to that, Dick." Becky laughed. "I'll be there with bells on, but I can forget the underwear." I grinned, closed my phone, opened the door, and grabbed my suitcases. I left a stunned and speechless Darla standing in the living room as I nonchalantly walked down the walkway to my car. Although it wasn't a gourmet dinner, Becky and I enjoyed a nice steak before retiring to my apartment. She had just brought me to my third rapture when the phone by the bed rang. Holding me in her rather cozy love nest, Becky leaned over and picked up the phone. "Hello," she answered breathlessly. "Darla? Will he be able to call you back in a few minutes? He's in a bit of a bind right now, and he needs to relax a bit. But I think I can hurry him up. Be nice and give him half an hour. Well, just in case the train arrives at the station a little later than I expect, okay?" With those words, Becky hung up the phone and started riding me with redoubled energy. I continued to squeeze her as she worked to get me where I needed to go. This time I joined Becky for the finale. I waited a few minutes for my heartbeat to return to normal and for Becky to rush off me. Then I leaned over to the phone and dialed the number that had been mine a couple hours ago, my home number. "Hello," Darla almost shouted, answering before the first ring ended. "Is that you, Dick?" "Yeah, it's me, Darla. I'm sorry I couldn't reach the phone when you called, but I called you back as soon as I was free," I replied more than smugly. "What the hell is going on, Dick?" Darla demanded an answer. "You already had a place to stay and your suitcases were packed before I even told you I wanted to separate. Then I call your number to discuss our situation and this fool answers my phone. She almost admits she's onto you right now. Let's just say I didn't want to be caught with my pants down this afternoon when you decided to tell me you wanted to separate. Being caught with my pants down a few minutes ago is far less unpleasant. Becky's not really stupid. At least I don't think so." I grinned, stroking her smooth ass. I guess I could ask her about it if it's important for deciding if we're going to reconcile or not. "Bastard," Darla blurted out. "You told me we weren't going to make love to anyone while we were apart. This is just a test." "That's not exactly what I said, Darla," I countered. "I told you that if you make love to anyone else, we're definitely getting a divorce. I never said anything about not having it." "You're a real piece of shit," Darla snapped at me. Why do you think you can play by different rules or even dictate them? If you can go and sleep with whoever you want, I sure as hell think I'm entitled to it too. What's good for the goose is good for the gander and all that, Dick. Of course you can, Darla. I'm just telling you it's bound to lead to our divorce. I won't be a cuckold, I declared. Then we should get a divorce because you slept with that girl, shouldn't we? Darla asked. I think we should file for divorce Monday morning. That seems fair, doesn't it? Not really, Darla. Here's my reasoning. You're the one who decided we should split up. That meant I was removed from my partner against my will. You did it of your own free will. There's a huge difference. Besides, I told you up front that I would divorce you if you made love to anyone but me. You never said anything like that to me. Finally, despite all of the above, you still have every right to file for divorce. If you want to, go ahead and file. It's that simple, I concluded. But I'm not sure I want a divorce, Dick. I just want a separation to think about some things, Darla insisted. Then there's no problem. We're separated. You have what you want, I concluded. It's not fair, Darla complained. Darla, I didn't ask to be separated. I didn't want it. I wanted my life and my wife as they were. Well, almost. You took that away from me as a result of the separation. I mean, I'm not going to do without love because you have some bug up your ass. If it makes you happy, you can come here 3 or 4 nights a week and I'll stupidly love you. By the way, I'm not going to fuck every woman I could talk into bed with me here, I reasoned. What kind of separation is this, Dick? I've never heard of a couple separating, and the woman letting the man love her all the time to keep him faithful. Then it wouldn't even be a separation, would it? Darla demanded clarity. I haven't read the separation manual yet, Darla. I can see that I need to be more specific here. I am firmly convinced that I am not going to allow this separation idea of yours to curtail my sexual appetite as our marriage has already done. What is wrong with you, Dick? All I wanted was a simple separation to see if we'd stay married. In a couple hours, you've turned into a sex devil. You're crude, vulgar, uncouth, and vulgar. I've never cheated on you or asked to be separated. I'm just trying to find myself. Right now, I'm finding myself with a woman who's trying to swallow everything. We can talk again tomorrow, I joked as I hung up the phone. This conversation is a real turn-on. You laid down the law for your wife. Did I mishear her call me stupid? I've always been an observant person. It was natural and it was helpful in many ways. It prevented many of the surprises that constantly thwarted most people. My wife Darla, on the other hand, hardly ever noticed anything unless it bit her in the ass. Darla was very vocal about a new dentist who came to the clinic where she worked. He was in the final stages of a divorce from his wife, who was an unfaithful, cheating wench. At the same time as he should have been counted among the saints, at least in Darla's opinion. Then a few weeks ago, Darla stopped talking about him. Any questions I asked were deflected. It was as if this new guy had fallen off the planet. Darla's silence on the subject excited me more than her incessant chatter. Our phone was tapped, conversations were recorded, and her emails were forwarded to me. I hired a private investigator to see what he could tell me about the situation. From all the evidence, there was a clear pattern of seduction. Dr. Burns, as he was known professionally, was trying to get into Darla's underpants. He was getting a divorce because he had done the same thing at his previous clinic. There were even a couple of his old patients who were close to accusing him of ethical violations. The guy was a scoundrel. To her credit, Darla had managed to resist so far. She refused to cheat on her husband or dissolve the marriage. Then Burns started pushing her toward separation. He argued that Darla would not cheat if she was in separation and made love to him. Consequently, my stern warning to Darla about having sex with anyone but me was necessary. If she cared about the idea of staying married to me, she would have to keep that asshole out of her pants. Becky had only been my coworker at work for a few months, but we had become firm friends. She was a widow and had recently gotten a transfer to the West Coast to be closer to her daughter and grandchildren. When I explained to her my marital problems with Darla and my plan to bring the situation to a critical juncture, Becky quickly volunteered to be the other woman. Reading Darla's emails and listening to her phone conversations, I learned that she was going to announce the idea of a trial separation on Friday afternoon. It wasn't hard for me to go home for lunch and pack a couple suitcases. I then moved into Becky's apartment as she had 2 months left on her lease. She would be flying out west on Monday afternoon, so we spent the entire weekend like monkeys. I continued to watch Darla. I would seriously dump her on the side of the road if she even did anything to Burns. I was a faithful husband and devoted father to our son and daughter. They graduated from a local university and had good jobs in neighboring states. I wasn't going to be a cheater or some kind of womanizer. I figured that if Darla wanted me back, she would have to convince me it was worth it. I wasn't going to beg her. If we managed to remain a married couple, the status quo still wouldn't return. I wanted more out of my marriage than love out of favor once every couple weeks. I wanted a woman who was willing to conform to my desires and would even up the ante at times. I'm not going back to the monastic life. I had just gotten to my apartment after dropping Becky off at the airport when my doorbell rang. I was more than surprised to find Darla standing there sobbing. I walked her into the apartment and sat her down on the couch. Sat down next to her and waited for her to talk. It took a couple minutes, but eventually she pulled herself together and told me what was bothering her. Dick, I've been so stupid. It probably won't surprise you when I tell you that Dr. Burns has been pushing his wedges on me for the last few weeks. You seem to know more about who I am than I do. He convinced me to ask you for a trial separation so we could make love, Darla admitted. He told me that if we were separated, it wouldn't be cheating, and that you would even treat me better when I decided to take you back. Things definitely didn't go according to plan. You were ready, your bags were packed, you had a place to live and a girl to move in with. And here I am with my brilliant idea. I'll never be able to figure it out, I think. But I think so much about what I'm going to do, but I should have known you'd be light years ahead of me. When I called you Friday night and this woman answered and almost admitted that you were sleeping with her, I almost died. Then when you called back, I knew you had just finished doing it with her. That hurt like hell, Dick, Darla sobbed. I spent the whole weekend thinking about what you said. I gradually realized that you had honestly framed the situation for me. I was the one who asked for the separation, not you. I had planned to spend a few nights with Ed Burns and then let you crawl back home. You'd just be an unconscious victim of my stupid scheme. Darla didn't have the sharpest mind, but she was always honest and open. It was one of the reasons why her actions lately had caused so much anxiety. She wasn't designed to be secretive and conniving. It just wouldn't be her. Turns out you weren't an unconscious victim. You somehow knew what I was planning and turned the tables on me. In the blink of an eye, everything changed, and now you were engaging in extramarital games with no guilt or remorse. I would have lost my marriage if I had slept with Ed. Finally, after hours of thinking and more yelling and self-pity, I realized what I was trying to do to you and to us. I even realized your quick and very effective response to my stupid, selfish, and completely undeserved actions. You got me good, Dick, but I deserved it. I decided to tell the good doctor this morning when he came to work that he was out of line, Darla concluded. So you just scolded him and expected me to forget the whole thing, Darla? I asked. Am I supposed to forget that you were willing to risk our marriage over some fucking asshole? That you were willing to put me through hell because some jackass wanted to get in your panties? Darla, you're a beautiful woman. There are plenty of men who would sleep with you in a heartbeat. Now, do I have to worry about you doing it with every man who looks at you kindly? No, Dick, I'm not the one who chased Burns away this morning. When he arrived, there were a couple of cops waiting for him in the parking lot. He was arrested and charged with rape and who knows what else. One of our patients, Mrs. Gunn, claims he molested and raped her while she was under anesthesia. The investigation led a couple of other women to report inappropriate behavior on his part. He got nailed. Darla grinned grimly. That's the piece of shit I risked everything for, Dick. I can't say I'm surprised, Darla. It was pretty obvious to me that he was a wily hound with the scruples of a street cat. Now he's out of sight, and you think I'm going to forget all about it? No, Dick, Darla replied slowly. I was hoping you'd keep your word if you hadn't lied to me. I've never lied to you, Darla, and I always try to keep my word. I just don't know what you're talking about, I replied, confused. You told me that I could come here 3 or 4 nights a week and you would sleep with me. You said it would save you from having to talk other women into sharing your bed, remember? Darla asked. Yes, I now recall saying something like that when you mentioned it, I admitted. I also told you that I would not go back to the way things were. You're going to have to actively participate, not just lie there and let me use your body. That doesn't really appeal to me, especially after I've experienced exciting and pleasurable sex. That's when each partner is trying their best to please the other. I'm sorry if that offends you. I think I know what you mean, Dick. Maybe you can help me learn to be more responsive. Becky was probably, at that moment, flying over Colorado and had no intention of ever coming back. I didn't know any other women who could let me love myself, and I really loved Darla. So the decision was obvious to me. It's a deal, Darla, I vowed. There will be no other women as long as you are my personal wife. I emphasize the word personal. I won't even let you flirt with another man without my express permission. No problem, Dick, Darla squealed. I can't believe you're willing to give up that other woman for me, but I'm so glad you did. You won't regret this decision, Dick. I can't wait to be your little wife and find out what I've had to do with and for you for the past 20+ years. Oh, here's more proof that I mean it, my dear. With that statement made, Darla reached into her purse, pulled out lip gloss, lube, and whipped cream, and placed it all on the table. Honey, is there a specific order in which you want to use these products? Darla smiled seductively. The end.